The forged power of attorney document trembled in my hands, my signature perfectly copied onto a form dated for March 15th, when I'd been presenting at a marketing conference in Denver with 300 witnesses. But this wasn't even the worst betrayal. The worst was remembering what my stepfather Roger had said exactly 1 week ago, 5 days before his 60th birthday, when I'd casually asked if he needed help with the party planning. "You know what, Athena," he'd said, setting down his coffee with deliberate slowness. "The greatest gift would be if you just died." I'm Athena Hall, 32 years old, and for the past 3 months, I'd been living in my childhood home in Burlington, Vermont. I'd taken leave from my marketing director position at a Boston firm to help my mother through hip replacement complications. A routine surgery had turned into a nightmare of infections and additional procedures, requiring constant care and physical therapy. My stepfather, Roger Brennan, had married my mother when I was 15, barely a year after my father's sudden death from a heart attack. For 17 years, he'd cultivated the image of a respectable businessman and public servant, city councilman for 2 terms, owner of 2 successful car dealerships, regular donor to local charities, the kind of man whose handshake could expedite building permits and whose endorsement could swing local elections. That morning, while searching his home office for my mother's insurance paperwork, I'd stumbled into something that made my stomach drop. Not just the forged power of attorney, but an entire hanging file labeled AH, documentation. Inside were emails from accounts I'd never created, discussing my supposed mental health crisis and erratic behavior. There were receipts for liquor stores I'd never visited, paid with a credit card I'd never opened. Most disturbing was a psychological evaluation dated 2 weeks ago from Dr. Morrison, Roger's golf buddy, claiming I showed paranoid delusions and potential for self-harm. The problem? 2 weeks ago, I'd been in Boston for 3 days, handling an emergency at work. My boss could verify every hour of my time there. Dr. Morrison had evaluated me without ever meeting me. My phone camera clicked steadily as I documented everything. Then I found the second folder, Property Management. Inside were bank statements showing systematic withdrawals from my mother's retirement account. $43,000 over 18 months marked as home improvements and medical equipment. Our house hadn't seen a contractor in 3 years, and Medicare covered all Mom's actual medical equipment. The final document made me gasp. A contract to sell my grandmother's house, specifically willed to me, to Brennan Properties LLC for $200,000. Market value? $600,000 minimum. The signature was my mother's, shaky and uncertain. Dated 2 days ago when she'd been heavily medicated after a procedure. Roger's Lexus rumbled into the driveway. I quickly replaced everything, making it to the kitchen before he walked in, straightening his tie. He never could get it quite right, always listing slightly left like his moral compass. "Still hovering around your mother?" he asked, opening the refrigerator for his morning beer. "She's fine. You should get back to Boston. Your constant presence is unsettling for her recovery." Unsettling. This from the man systematically drugging her and stealing her life savings. "Just making sure she has everything she needs," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "Actually, I ran into Barbara Walsh at the store yesterday. She mentioned something about a city audit." His hand froze on the beer bottle. Barbara Walsh was a city councilwoman who'd been asking uncomfortable questions lately. She should mind her own business. Some people don't understand how government really works. As he passed me, I caught a whiff of unfamiliar perfume, floral and young. His new secretary, Brittany, wore that exact scent. She was 24, fresh out of community college, and had been working late with unusual frequency according to the security logs I'd checked. "Oh, Roger," I called out casually, testing the waters. The pharmacy called about Mom's medications. They said there's been some unusual refill patterns. His shoulders tensed. "I handle your mother's medications. The pharmacy makes mistakes. Don't confuse her by getting involved." But I was already involved, deeper than he could imagine. What Roger didn't understand was that 5 years in corporate marketing had taught me 3 crucial skills. Document everything. Build airtight cases, and never show your hand until you're ready to play it. As he headed to his office, I noticed him pull out his phone, probably to call Dr. Morrison. Good. Let them scramble. They had no idea that I'd already begun documenting their entire conspiracy piece by piece, like building a marketing campaign, except this time, the product I was selling was justice. That afternoon, I visited Mom during Roger's regular golf game. She was clearer than usual. I'd started tracking her medication schedule and noticed Roger always increased her doses before important conversations. "Sweetie," she said, gripping my hand, "I feel like I've been sleeping for months. There are papers I signed. I don't remember." "Don't worry, Mom," I assured her. "I'm taking care of everything." And I was. Roger wanted me dead? Well, the old, trusting Athena was about to die. In her place would rise someone he'd never expected. Someone with evidence, allies, and a plan to destroy everything he'd built on our family's bones. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this story, please subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time is it there. I see everything. Thank you so much for your support. The 3 weeks following my discovery became an intensive education in Roger's systematic destruction of my reputation. It started subtly. Concerned comments to neighbors about my stress levels, worried mentions to family friends about my mood swings. But Roger was nothing if not thorough. "Athena's struggling," I overheard him tell my Aunt Paula during Sunday dinner. "Yesterday I found her crying in the garage at midnight talking about how everyone's against her." Complete fabrication. At midnight, I'd been on a video conference with my Australian client discussing their Q3 marketing strategy. Roger would have known this if he'd checked his own security cameras, but why let facts interfere with character assassination? The medication manipulation was particularly cruel. I started documenting Mom's pills after noticing her confusion didn't match her recovery timeline. Roger had been doubling her evening pain medications while skipping her morning cognitive enhancers, creating windows of vulnerability when he needed signatures. The prescriptions came from Dr. Morrison, naturally. Not her actual physician, Dr. Harrison. "Mrs. Brennan needs adjusted dosing for optimal comfort," Dr. Morrison had written in official-looking notes I photographed from Roger's desk. Translation: keep her docile and compliant. The fake email accounts showed surprising attention to detail. AthenaMH2024@gmail.com had been sending messages to extended family, discussing my paranoid theories about Roger. The grammar was too formal, though. I never used semicolons in casual emails, and the sign-off "warm regards" was Roger's tell, not mine. But technology was Roger's Achilles heel. My friend Marcus, an IT specialist, helped me trace the IP addresses. Every fake email originated from either Roger's dealership network or City Hall computers. He was literally using taxpayer resources to destroy my reputation. "This is amateur hour," Marcus laughed, showing me the metadata. "He didn't even use a VPN. Your stepfather just created evidence of wire fraud." I began counter-documenting everything. Vermont is a one-party consent state for recordings, so every conversation with Roger or his allies went straight to my phone. Every financial discrepancy was photographed and backed up to 3 separate cloud services. Every interaction was followed up with an email just to confirm our conversation. The comedy emerged from Roger's spectacular technical incompetence. He tried to delete security footage of himself entering my room to plant evidence, but only deleted it from the main monitor. The backup system recorded everything. His attempt to access my laptop showed 17 failed password attempts, including password 123 and Athena 123. Then there was the Excel incident. I watched through his cracked office door as he tried to alter dealership inventory reports. He couldn't figure out basic formulas, so he used a calculator, manually typed the totals, not realizing the formula bar still showed his amateur manipulation attempts. This was the financial genius stealing from my mother. My evidence collection expanded beyond family crimes. Roger was sloppy everywhere. I found receipts showing his secretary Brittany buying lingerie on the company credit card. Text messages on his poorly hidden second phone detailed construction kickbacks. Transfer another $10,000 from the discretionary fund. Mark it as consulting fees. Make sure Burlington Heights bid goes to Morrison Construction regardless of price. Burlington Heights, the $50 million senior living facility that Morrison Construction won, despite bidding significantly higher than competitors. Now I knew why. The most interesting discovery came when I noticed Brittany's behavior. Despite Roger's obvious infatuation, she seemed oddly professional, always taking notes, always recording meeting minutes on her phone, always asking Roger to clarify for the record. When I saw her photographing documents Roger left on his desk, I realized something. Brittany might be playing a deeper game than anyone suspected. "Your stepdaughter seems troubled," Dr. Morrison said during an accidental encounter at the coffee shop, clearly sent by Roger. "I could offer professional help." "That's kind," I replied, recording everything. "But I'm feeling remarkably clear-headed lately. Must be all this Vermont air." His face darkened. "Mental illness often presents as clarity to the afflicted. Your stepfather mentioned concerning behaviors." "Did he mention his concerning behaviors? Like asking you to write evaluations for patients you've never met?" Dr. Morrison left quickly after that. Roger's paranoia increased as Mom showed signs of improvement. With me secretly correcting her medication doses, she was remembering things. Signatures she didn't recall giving, documents that made no sense, money that had vanished. "I need you to sign these insurance forms," Roger told her one evening, sliding papers across the table. "Let me read them first," Mom said, putting on her reading glasses. "You never read them before," Roger snapped, then caught himself. "I mean, it's just routine." "Then you won't mind if I have my daughter look at them," Mom replied sweetly. The papers disappeared, never to be mentioned again. What Roger didn't realize was that every move he made created more evidence. His fake documentation required forged signatures. Federal crime. His medication tampering constituted elder abuse. State crime. His kickback schemes involved interstate commerce, FBI jurisdiction. He was building the prosecutor's case for them, one panicked mistake at a time. Building my coalition against Roger started at the farmer's market, over homemade strawberry jam and barely contained rage. Janet Kowalski, Roger's former bookkeeper of 23 years, had been selling preserves there since Roger fired her 8 months ago for refusing to adapt to new systems, which meant she wouldn't falsify inventory reports. "Honey, I kept copies of everything," Janet told me over coffee, her 70-year-old eyes sharp with vindication. 23 years of loyalty, and he replaced me with that young girl who can barely use QuickBooks. Though between you and me, that girl's smarter than she lets on. I've seen her at the library studying forensic accounting textbooks. This confirmed my suspicions about Brittany. She was playing dumb while documenting everything. But for whom? Miguel Rodriguez became my next ally. Still employed at the dealership, he'd been building his own insurance policy. "Mr. Brennan thinks I don't speak perfect English," Miguel told me in unaccented English he deliberately hid at work. "It's amazing what people say when they think you don't understand." 18 months of recorded conversations about rolled back odometers, salvage titles sold as certified, warranty fraud, all perfectly legal to record since I'm part of the conversations. My college friend Sarah Chen had become a forensic accountant in Hartford. When I showed her Roger's tax documents, she whistled low. "This is beautiful in its stupidity." He claimed his mistress's apartment as a business expense, but labeled it client entertainment venue. He wrote campaign supplies for what are clearly personal vacation charges. "The IRS is going to have a field day." "Can you prove it?" I asked. Athena, a first-year accounting student, could prove it. He left a paper trail wider than I-89. "Look here." He literally endorsed a check with "for tax purposes" written in the memo line. That's not how any of this works. The network expanded organically. Tom Bradley, who lost the Burlington Heights bid, had been documenting the bid rigging for months. Barbara Walsh from the city council had recordings of Roger threatening her over her son's minor marijuana possession from 2 years ago. Even Ernest Thompson, the night janitor at City Hall, had been collecting papers Roger threw in regular trash instead of the shredder. "Man makes 6 figures but can't work a shredder," Ernest chuckled, showing me boxes of documents. "Been saving these for someone who'd care. My wife says I'm a hoarder, but I call it evidence preservation." The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. I was researching property records when a block number called. "Miss Hall, this is Agent Jennifer Walsh from the FBI. We understand you've been documenting Councilman Brennan's activities. We've been building a federal case for 8 months, but we're missing crucial state-level evidence. Would you be interested in cooperation?" My heart raced. The FBI is already investigating Roger? Burlington Heights wasn't his first suspicious contract. Federal housing funds have taken interesting detours through his accounts. Here's what we need. The elder abuse and medical fraud give us state charges we can leverage. Federal prosecution alone might get him 5 years. With state charges, we're looking at 15 to 20. Brittany, I said suddenly. She's one of yours. Agent Walsh paused. I can neither confirm nor deny that. But hypothetically, if someone inside his operation was documenting everything, that person would be very interested in your evidence about family crimes that occur outside the workplace. So Brittany was FBI. It made perfect sense. Her careful documentation, her strategic questions, her ability to tolerate Roger's advances without breaking cover. She was probably the best actor in Burlington. Roger, meanwhile, was making increasingly desperate moves. He tried to rush the sale of grandmother's house, but I'd filed an injunction citing irregular signatures. He attempted to have me involuntarily committed for observation, but Dr. Harrison, Mom's real doctor, not only refused, but reported Roger's request to the medical board. Your stepfather seems very concerned about your mental health, Dr. Harrison told me with knowing eyes. Funny thing is, you're the most rational person in that house. Your mother's medication irregularities, however, that's worth investigating. Roger must have sensed the walls closing in because his mistakes multiplied. He bought an industrial shredder so loud that Mrs. Patterson next door started a neighborhood group chat called Roger's Panic Hours to track when it ran. 3 hours of shredding today, she texted one evening. He must be really worried about something. If only she knew that Ernest had already given us originals of everything Roger was frantically destroying copies of. The funniest moment came when Roger tried to use Bitcoin to hide money. He spent 4 hours on the phone with tech support, actually a scammer from overseas, who convinced him to buy gift cards to unlock his digital wallet. He lost $8,000 to a scammer while trying to hide money from the IRS. Miguel recorded the entire meltdown from the next room. I want to feel bad for him, Miguel told me later. But then I remember he fired Janet and tried to blame me for the inventory discrepancies. Karma has a sense of humor. By the week before Roger's birthday, our alliance included 24 people with evidence. The FBI with federal jurisdiction, the state attorney general's office interested in the elder abuse, and the IRS practically salivating over the tax fraud. Roger thought he was planning his birthday celebration. In reality, he was planning his own downfall. The week of Roger's 60th birthday arrived with all the pomp and circumstance he'd orchestrated for himself. 150 invitations had gone out for his Saturday night celebration at the Burlington Country Club. Every important figure in local politics, business owners, the entire city council, and strategically selected media contacts. Roger had even hired the newspaper's event photographer, planning to announce his re-election campaign with maximum publicity. This birthday will launch my next chapter, Roger told anyone who'd listen, not realizing how accurate that statement would prove. Wednesday afternoon, I made my calculated exit. Roger believed I was checking into a wellness retreat in Stowe. I'd left brochures visible, had loud phone conversations about needing space to process everything, and made sure he saw me packing suitcases. I even had Sarah call the house asking for me, only to be told I was getting help for my issues. In reality, I drove straight to Montpelier, to a federal building where Agent Walsh and her team waited with coffee and recording equipment. Miss Hall, your evidence is the missing piece, Agent Walsh explained, reviewing my files. We've had someone inside Roger's operation for 4 months, someone he trusts completely, who's documented his every crime. But the family angle, the elder abuse, the medical fraud, these give us state charges that make federal prosecution inevitable. She confirmed what I'd suspected. Brittany Andrews, the ditzy secretary, was actually Agent Brittany Chen, specialized in financial crimes and playing the long game. Every giggle at Roger's bad jokes, every confused question about accounting, every Instagram post from working late, all carefully orchestrated intelligence gathering. Your stepfather told Agent Chen about his plans for you, Walsh continued. After his birthday party, he intended to have you committed using Dr. Morrison's evaluation, then take full control of your mother's assets through power of attorney. He even showed her the commitment papers, already filled out, just waiting for a signature. The irony was delicious. Roger's ego, his need to impress a younger woman with his power, had led him to confess federal crimes to a federal agent. Thursday, I played my role perfectly. I called Roger from the retreat, sounding appropriately subdued and apologetic. "You were right about me needing help," I said while 3 FBI agents listened. "After your birthday, I'll see whatever doctor you recommend." "That's very mature, Athena," Roger replied, his condescension dripping through the phone. "Dr. Morrison will fix everything. You'll see. This is what's best for the family." What was best for the family was currently being documented by federal prosecutors. Friday brought unexpected comedy. Roger, feeling victorious, decided to practice his birthday speech at the dealership. Miguel captured it all on video. Roger's grandiose gestures, his promises to continue serving Burlington with integrity, his plans to expand business opportunities for deserving partners. During the dramatic climax about family values, a customer's child pointed at Roger's head and announced loudly, "Mommy, why does that man have a guinea pig on his head?" Roger's new hairpiece, he'd upgraded for the occasion, did have an unfortunate resemblance to a small mammal. The video would later become evidence of his state of mind, but not before half of Burlington had shared it privately, laughing at the councilman's expense. Saturday morning, the day of celebration, I returned from my retreat, looking appropriately chastened. Roger was in his element, directing caterers, adjusting flower arrangements, ensuring his accomplishments board, listing all his charitable work and civic improvements, was prominently displayed. Most of those achievements existed only on paper, naturally. "You look better," he told me magnanimously, more accepting of reality. "Oh, I've completely accepted reality," I replied with absolute honesty. Mom had been gradually emerging from her medication fog all week. With her correct prescriptions restored, she was remembering things. Documents she didn't understand, signatures she didn't recall, money that had vanished. Dr. Harrison stood ready to testify about her altered mental state under Roger's care. The party began at 7. Roger held court like a king, shaking hands with the mayor, accepting praise from fellow council members, basking in manufactured respect. The photographer captured every moment. Roger with prominent citizens, Roger gesturing grandly at his accomplishments board, Roger with his arm around my mother, who could barely conceal her revulsion. "I'm thrilled to announce," Roger declared, raising his champagne, "that I'll be seeking re-election to the city council, with an eye toward the state legislature. Burlington has been good to me, and I intend to be good for Burlington." Applause filled the room. Brittany Agent Chen gazed at him adoringly while her wire recorded every word. Her hidden camera captured every handshake with corrupt contractors, and her FBI-issued phone documented every confession Roger whispered about their future together once he divorced my mother. What Roger didn't know was that while he celebrated, federal judges were signing warrants. While he danced with my mother, the IRS was preparing to freeze his accounts. While he cut his 3-tiered cake decorated with tiny gavels and dollar signs. His choice, remarkably. Prosecutors were finalizing charges that would end his career, his freedom, and his carefully constructed facade. I stood in the corner, sipping champagne and watching Roger's last night of freedom. Tomorrow would begin the countdown to his arrest, though he wouldn't know it yet. The investigation would proceed methodically, giving him just enough rope to hang himself while he scrambled to cover tracks that had already been thoroughly documented. "Smile, Athena," Roger commanded, as the photographer positioned us for a family photo. "Try to look happy for once. This is a celebration." I smiled my brightest, most genuine smile. This photo would indeed be historic. The last image of Councilman Brennan before his empire crumbled. In 6 weeks, this same photo would accompany headlines about his arrest, his fraud, his spectacular fall from grace. "Best birthday ever," Roger declared to the crowd. Behind him, Brittany's Agent Chen typed something on her phone. Later, I learned it was her report to headquarters. Subject basking in false success. Proceed with Phase 2, Monday morning. Monday morning after Roger's birthday started quietly. Roger went to his dealership as usual, complaining about a champagne headache. Mom had her physical therapy appointment. I pretended to research mental health facilities, leaving browser tabs open for Roger to see. But at exactly 9 a.m., the first domino fell. The FBI forensic accounting team arrived at both dealerships simultaneously, dressed like insurance adjusters in polo shirts and khakis. They worked quietly, copying hard drives, photographing documents, boxing records. Roger didn't notice for nearly 2 hours. He was too busy berating a salesman about lost opportunities, while federal agents documented his actual lost opportunities in the back office. Mr. Brennan? Agent Walsh appeared in his doorway at 11:30. We need to discuss some discrepancies in your federal tax filings and city contracts. Roger's face went through several transformations: confusion, anger, fear, then attempted bravado. This is harassment. I want my lawyer. Absolutely, call him, Agent Walsh said pleasantly. Though you should know we're executing a search warrant at his office as well. Something about shared conspiracy charges, but I'm sure he'll be very helpful. Tuesday through Thursday proceeded like a slow-motion avalanche. The FBI interviewed every city council member, every dealership employee, every contractor who'd mysteriously won bids. Barbara Walsh told me Roger called council members throughout the night, trying to coordinate stories, creating new evidence with every panicked text message. 2 weeks after the birthday party, the first public crack appeared. Dennis Martinez, the local blogger who'd been receiving anonymous tips, courtesy of Ernest's document collection, published a piece titled Questions About City Contract Allocations. It was mild, almost boring, but sufficient to make Roger panic. He called an emergency staff meeting where Agent Chen recorded him instructing everyone to lose any complicated paperwork. And remember, you don't recall specific conversations about side arrangements. 3 weeks in, Roger realized I wasn't pursuing mental health treatment. He came home in a rage. "What did you do?" he screamed. "I took your advice," I said calmly, my phone recording. "I got help, just not the kind you expected." He raised his hand as if to strike me, then noticed Mom watching from the couch, clear-eyed and alert. "Roger," Mom said quietly, "I remember the papers you had me sign, all of them. Dr. Harrison helped me understand what you've been doing with my medications." The realization on his face was priceless. The understanding that his carefully constructed house of cards was collapsing. Week 4 brought the deluge. Dennis Martinez received a massive package of documentation: contracts, emails, recordings, financial statements. But he was smart about it, releasing information gradually. First questions about dealership inventory, then concerns about city contract irregularities, then hints about possible financial improprieties. Roger tried damage control via press conference at his dealership. Standing before his Businessman of the Year 2019 plaque, he declared, "These are baseless accusations from disgruntled former employees and a mentally unstable stepdaughter trying to extort money from our family." That statement alone added defamation and witness intimidation to his charges. Agent Walsh actually texted me, "He just made our job easier." Week 5 saw the dam burst. Miguel's video of Roger counting actual cash bribes while discussing how to hide them went public. The local news ate it up. The quality was perfect because Miguel had been cleaning nearby, his phone propped innocently in his supply cart. Brennan bribes started trending locally. Someone noticed Roger's hairpiece sliding every time he bent to count money, adding unfortunate comedy to federal evidence. By week 6, Roger had barricaded himself in his home office. Through the door, I could hear him on continuous phone calls. Lawyers, accountants, fellow council members, anyone who might help. His voice grew more desperate with each conversation. "It's all fabricated. I'm being framed. That's not even my real signature. The FBI is persecuting me." Mom and I sat in the living room, working on a crossword puzzle. 8 letters, she said. Comeuppance. Justice fits too, I suggested. 7 letters? Monday morning of week 6, Roger sat in his office watching his destruction on multiple screens. His computer showed the dealership's Google reviews, hundreds of people sharing their stories of fraud. His phone buzzed with resignation demands from the city council. His tablet displayed the Burlington Herald's headline, "Councilman Brennan, a pattern of corruption." The doorbell rang. Roger didn't move. He seemed frozen. finally understanding that his empire hadn't just crumbled. It had been methodically dismantled piece by piece. I opened the door to Agent Walsh and 6 other federal agents. "Miss Hall, is Mr. Brennan home?" "He's in his office," I said, loudly enough for Roger to hear. "He's been shredding documents for the past 3 hours, though I'm not sure why, since you already have originals of everything." The arrest happened Tuesday morning at Roger's flagship dealership, 6 weeks and 1 day after his triumphant 60th birthday party. The FBI had strategically chosen the location and timing, peak customer hours, ensuring maximum witnesses to his downfall. They waited until Roger was in the showroom, surrounded by the luxury cars he'd sold with fraudulent warranties and rolled back odometers. Before moving in, a customer recorded everything on their phone. Roger in handcuffs being led past his Integrity in Business Award, past photos of him with local dignitaries, past the desk where he'd counted bribes. Within an hour, the video was everywhere. Councilman Cuff dominated local social media. The regional news picked it up by noon, though it remained appropriately local. A Vermont councilman's corruption wasn't national news, but it was everything in Burlington. The charges read like a symphony of justice. 5 counts of tax evasion, 3 counts of wire fraud, 2 counts of conspiracy to commit fraud, 4 counts of money laundering, and 1 count of elder abuse. The state added their own charges: forgery, fraud, witness intimidation, and medication tampering. The federal prosecutor told me Roger faced 15 to 20 years, though realistically, with a plea deal, he'd serve 12 to 15. In federal prison, he'd serve 85% minimum. No getting out in 6 years for good behavior. "The greatest gift would be if you just died," Roger had told me. In a way, the old Athena had died, the one who trusted family implicitly, who avoided confrontation, who believed justice naturally prevailed. She'd been replaced by someone who understood that sometimes you have to fight for what's right, document everything, and build alliances with others who've been wronged. Mom's recovery accelerated once Roger was gone. Within 2 weeks of his arrest, with proper medication and no psychological manipulation, she was sharp as ever. The horror on her face when she fully understood what Roger had done was mixed with pride in how I'd handled it. "I suspected something was wrong," she admitted over tea, but the medication fog made it impossible to think clearly. Those moments of clarity were terrifying, knowing something was wrong but not being able to grasp it. "You were drugged, Mom. This wasn't your fault." "I know, but you fought back brilliantly. You're your father's daughter. He would be so proud." The asset recovery process began immediately, though it would take months to complete. The FBI froze Roger's 14 hidden accounts, finding nearly $2 million in stolen funds. Mom would recover her retirement money plus damages. The house meant for me was removed from sale, the fraudulent contract voided. The city had to return the kickback money, which meant Morrison Construction forfeited the Burlington Heights contract. It went to Tom Bradley's company at his original lower bid. Agent Chen, no longer pretending to be Brittany the secretary, visited me during Roger's pretrial hearings. "You should know your evidence made the difference," she said. "We had the federal crimes, but the state charges, especially the elder abuse, that's what prevents him from pleading down to nothing." "How did you stand it?" I asked, pretending to be attracted to him. She laughed, acting training in Quantico, plus watching him think he was so clever while confessing crimes to a federal agent. That was entertainment. "Did you know he actually tried to impress me by explaining his entire money laundering system? Drew diagrams and everything. Roger tried reaching out once through his lawyer. Not directly, since contacting me would violate his bail conditions. The message was pathetic. Would I consider speaking on his behalf at sentencing? We were family, after all. Family helps family. I sent back a one-line response through my lawyer. Family doesn't tell family their death would be a gift. The trial itself was almost anticlimactic, with mountains of evidence, recorded confessions, and Agent Chen's testimony. Roger's lawyer advised pleading guilty to reduce charges. The federal judge, known for harsh sentences on public corruption, wasn't sympathetic to Roger's claims of being misunderstood or targeted for his success. "Mr. Brennan," the judge said at sentencing, You held a position of public trust and used it to enrich yourself at the expense of your community and even your own family. The elaborate nature of your schemes, particularly the elder abuse and attempted involuntary commitment of your stepdaughter, shows a callous disregard for anyone but yourself. The sentence, 13 years federal, 8 years state to run concurrently, meaning 13 years total with a minimum of 11 years to serve. Roger would be 71 when eligible for release. His assets were liquidated for restitution. His city pension was revoked. His name was removed from every civic honor he'd received. The local paper ran a photo from his birthday party next to his arrest photo. The contrast was striking. From powerful politician to defeated criminal in 6 weeks. Someone noticed his expensive hairpiece was gone in the arrest photo, revealing the balding reality he'd hidden for years. Even his vanity had been stripped away. 3 months later, Mom and I sat in Grandmother's house. My house now, legally secured and protected. We were having tea and chocolate cake, a small celebration. The news played in the background, mentioning Roger's transfer to federal prison, where he'd been assigned to work in the facility's maintenance department, cleaning bathrooms, ironically, for a man who thought himself above everyone. You know what the real justice is? Mom said thoughtfully. It's not just that he's in prison, it's that everyone knows who he really was. The mask is gone forever. She was right. Roger had spent decades building a false image of success and respectability. Now, when anyone Googled his name, they'd find mug shots and fraud charges. His legacy wasn't civic leadership, but corruption exposed. My phone buzzed with a text from Miguel. New owner made me general manager. Janet's back doing the books. We're running honest deals now. Also, someone bought Roger's desk at the bankruptcy auction and donated it to the FBI Training Academy. They use it to teach about financial crime evidence. I laughed, sharing the news with Mom. There was poetic justice in Roger's former throne becoming a teaching tool for future federal agents. What about you? Mom asked. Back to Boston? Actually, I'm starting my own marketing firm here in Burlington, I told her. Barbara Walsh and some other council members want help rebuilding the city's image post-scandal. Plus, someone needs to help all the small businesses Roger squeezed over the years. Your father would love that. Using your skills to help our community heal. A year later, at Roger's appeal hearing, denied naturally, I saw him briefly. He'd aged tremendously. No hair products in prison, no expensive suits, no one to manipulate. He tried to catch my eye, perhaps hoping for forgiveness or pity. I looked through him as if he didn't exist, which, for all practical purposes in my life, he didn't. The greatest gift Roger wanted was my death. Instead, he got the death of everything he'd built through lies and theft. As for me, I got something infinitely more valuable: justice, freedom, and the knowledge that standing up to a bully, even one in your own family, is always the right choice. Karma had delivered its verdict, and it was perfect. Thank you so much for watching. More of my most gripping stories are already on your screen. Click one now and don't miss the best part. You will love it. See you in the next story.